welcome.
No.
Oh.
No. It's welcome to Thinking Like a Lawyer. I'm Joe Patrice. That's Kathryn Rubino. We're with Above the Law. It's a little website you've probably been reading for a while.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, we're here to talk about some of the big legal stories of the week. But first, how have you been?
Good. I feel like I had quite the weekend. A lot of parties. There was a soccer game people cared a lot about, and I felt like it was real pre-pandemic times.
Yeah. It did kind of seem
I went to
like
a bar. I did not wear a mask while I was there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Fully vaccinated. It's okay, folks.
Well, right, but yeah. No,
it's still like a thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I definitely had like the mask with me. I was like, oh, do I go from my seat where I'm eating and drinking and can I walk to the bathroom without a mask on? Like, what do I do? It felt awkward, but, I soldiered through.
Yeah. I mean, but that is the advantage of being in one of the areas of the country that thankfully has a
Correct.
fairly high instance of vaccination.
Yeah. New York is doing all right as these things go.
Yeah, it looks like, I'm just scrolling through the other day, it looks like Missouri and Arkansas are real disasters.
That's unfortunate.
Anywho.
Immunocompromised should come to New York.
Yeah. Or
You'll fare better.
go to Vermont, it looks like.
That's true.
As I'm scrolling here, that actually looks like the best place to be if you're worried. Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate for the folks for whom the vaccine doesn't seem to be working as well. And if you're living in places where the vaccination rate is less than 30%, you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah. Well, so I guess we can get right into it. The first story that I have of the day was a fairly big story on our site. A lot of people may have seen it from other media outlets, but obviously a quirk of it fit the Above the Law
genre.
Yeah, or it was within our idiom. There was a motion filed in the so-called Kraken cases, the various...
Those are still going on.
Actually, as we speak, they're in a sanctioning hearing.
Sure.
So...
Let's hope.
Yeah, it's been a thing. But there was a motion filed by one of the local council who was working with them, who now actually has her own lawyer, but her own lawyer didn't file this. She filed it. And, there were a lot of things in this fairly comical filing, but the one that really hit...
I mean, it would be funny if it wasn't so awful for the country, right?
The one that really hit home for all of us was plaintiffs' attorneys' speech and their right to petition government for redress of grievances is a First Amendment right protected by a line of U.S. Supreme Court cases too numerous to mention, and any attempt to string cite them here would be insulting to all involved, which is I guess
Blue Book, who needs her?
That's a hack for legal writing that I hadn't run across.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, this is an actual document filed in court by an actual lawyer. And if you tried to get away with that in law school, it would not go well for you.
No, and it's comically bad. Yeah, I don't know. Other folks...
Does it make you rethink your stance on the bar exam?
See, no, that's the thing, right? Like, it actually makes me double down on my thoughts on the bar exam because we're talking about a person who has passed the bar. So it's clear that there's
the bar exam actually does no gatekeeping, is what this means.
Yeah,
that's
my
point.
take.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I believe the profession needs gatekeeping. I think that a one-shot doctrinal test at the very beginning of your career is not where that is.
Yeah.
And this filing proves that.
I mean, I don't know if we have many non-lawyers listening to the show. I probably doubt it. But the Blue Book and citations are kind of a fundamental element of the whole indoctrination process of thinking like a lawyer, right? Like,
well, the entire common law system kind of stands on the principle that when you say something, you cite some precedent where a court has said that was true in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, Brad Heath at Reuters tweeted about this story and was just like, this is what the purpose of an EG site is, which is true.
Yes, we get the concept that there may be a lot of cases, and we have a way to deal with that fact.
Yeah. I actually, I retorted to that one that it was actually much more see generally Supreme Court shrug emoji was the way it really was.
That's a great line. No.
And thanks. It was... I spent a good deal of time trying to figure out what the joke there was. I had...
were there runners up?
Well, yeah, I had at one point that line was written as see generally one US 1 through whatever the current number is. I don't understand how somebody thinks they can get away with this. I don't understand, especially when you're already staring down the barrel of sanctions hearings. Like, why put out there something that just makes it seem more like you're abusing the process and not taking it seriously?
You're just making it up as you go along. Yeah. This does not help your position.
It's performatively a disaster if you're trying to claim that you're, serious lawyers doing serious things. I mean, and this lawyer had a history in this case too. Like the first thing, and we wrote about her when this happened, the first thing she filed in this case was a bunch of stuff about how you can't apply Rule 11, put sanctions on these people because they didn't really sign anything. The argument being...
I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah. The argument was, well, these lawyers didn't sign anything, which, putting aside that they had, in fact, signed these things. That's the part. Like, you could have an argument about lawyers who are tangentially involved with the case, should they be liable? And the answer is actually
sure.
Yes. But even if you didn't say that, they did, in fact, sign all this stuff. And then the way she made up for it was to cite a bunch of cases about how we only care if people have actually physically signed it with ink. But all of those cases
predate the internet.
Yeah. Right, which is why they said things like that.
So it's that she's familiar with the concept of citations, but it hasn't gone well for her.
Yeah, I feel like this was...
red flags.
She got burned once.
Yeah, so she's like, C-E-G, everything.
Yeah, so maybe that's what's happening here. She
got burned, yeah. It's got to be it.
Yeah, it's...
Speaking of citations, it's just kind of a random tidbit, but I heard we filled up the Fed third. Now we're on to F fourth.
Oh, yeah. Do we have like a... Yeah. There we go. Hooray. We filled up a federal reporter.
Now we're on to the fourth.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have had a party when that happened. We filled that up. That's exciting.
But you go from the 3D to fourth, which is going to be different. You can't just like change out the number, right? Because the suffix changes.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just a thing, a weird quirk of English, I suppose.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you, one of those,
little administrative tasks?
No, I was going to say it's like one of those little dumb things that you won't learn when you go to law school, but you go to be a lawyer, not an accountant. Take advantage of Nota, a no-cost IOLTA management tool that helps solo and small law firms track client funds down to the penny. Enjoy peace of mind with one-click reconciliation, automated transaction alerts, and real-time bank data. Visit trustnota.com/legal to learn more. Terms and conditions may apply. But I appreciated that you had a theory on how it could link to. That's fair.
Yeah. I was trying.
No, I mean, I appreciate you stepping up on the ad front.
Don't come to expect that. That is firmly your responsibility. Speaking of people who, I don't know, things you learn in law school, it seemed like President Trump was in need of some lawyering.
Trump does need some lawyers. He has actual issues going on that could be problematic for him. And he doesn't seem to like, at least according to these reports out there, he doesn't seem to like his current lawyers.
Well, he has a somewhat untenable legal position, so...
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. That'll go hand in hand for a while, I imagine.
But yes, in a new book, there are allegations that for over the last run, while complaining to anyone who will stand near him long enough that he has the worst lawyers and hates Rudy and all this, that he went about trying to find new lawyers by just asking random people at the hotel if they have... You
got a lawyer? You got a good lawyer? You got a good lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a bunch of rich people. Rich people have lawyers. That's a thing. I feel like if he was asking about somebody to help him file a securities offering or something like that, he might have gotten better. Criminal lawyers. Yeah. I mean, one would hope that the rich people who hang out at Mar-a-Lago don't have much need of criminal attorneys, but...
I mean, now who's being naive, Joe?
I mean, well, now that Epstein's gone.
Oh. Yeah, you did that.
Yeah,
you did that.
But yeah, no, but it just got me thinking about...
and he was asking, I'm sorry, for a lawyer for, is this like for his election lawsuits, or has this been the Trump organization legal trouble that he's in?
This is the Trump Organization
Okay.
legal trouble, the Cy-Vance stuff happening
Gotcha,
in New York.
Well, because there's a lot of reasons he may be searching.
Right. But no, this was for criminal lawyers to help him out in that sort of situation, which, criminal defense lawyers, I shouldn't say criminal lawyers. That makes it sound like he's
they are
hiring.
Actually like a criminal who happens to be a lawyer.
Maybe where he ends up before this is all over with his hiring process. But it did get me thinking, though, about the hiring process. How do people go about finding lawyers? I mean, obviously, there's the big firm world in which, we've always done Goldman Sachs's work. But beyond that, how do people find things? I remember when we were, back in the day, there was Martindale Hubbell had stuff, and obviously that's still around, but it's now been taken over by another entity. There's Avo, like all of these sorts of places. But is that where people are going to find folks? Are people using Yellow Pages? Like, how does the average person find a lawyer out there that they want to go with, asking for a former president?
Speaking of Trump's legal trouble, there was also a supercut that Midas Touch, one of the political super PACs, did on Trump, where it was a bunch of clips of him saying how well he knew the tax code, and you will never find a president who knows the tax code as well as I do. I'm the smartest tax person ever. Cut next to his, now that there's potential tax problems with the Trump Organization. Does anybody even understand the tax code? This seems entirely too difficult for anybody to understand.
Yeah, it's real bad. And it is very likely that his past claims of how much he knows about the tax code will be used against him when he tries to feign ignorance down the road. Even though ignorance probably was what was true in the first instance, and it was all just puffery. But again, that's probably where that goes.
Yeah. And it wasn't like a one-off. It's like a solid several minutes of him just saying how great he is at taxing. And now what do you know? He has a different story now that there's actual consequences that are potential.
Yeah, no, still, I just was very, how do you find somebody? Who do you work with? I feel like,
isn't it still mostly like recommendations and referrals?
Yeah, I would think so, but is it from the random folks who are at the 19th hole afterwards, or because that appears to be how he's approaching this process? I would feel, and obviously Rudy, as well as people like Sidney Powell, would fall under this recommendation. So maybe swing and a miss a couple of times there. So maybe this isn't the best recommendation. But given the concerns that he's now facing, it seems as though what I would do is do an immediate search of people who have left the U.S. Attorney's Office to go into private practice recently and start calling them. But I guess
revolving door be damned.
Yeah, well, right.
Well, if you need it, that is why it flourishes, right?
Yeah, well, it's somebody with the experience in that area who can do it. But that said, again, it's not really worked out for his other choices. So maybe I'm wrong about that.
At least they have the pedigree that makes you think that they might.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not on our agenda, but quick aside, when it comes to pedigree, when back in the 90s, one of the more respected constitutional law scholars out there was Jonathan Turley, and now, oh boy.
Ooh. For listeners who may not know what you're subtweeting right here, why don't you give a little bit of...
Speaking of subtweet, that's what he did. But the Turn Dog put an article in The Hill attacking Above the Law, and me specifically, as well as Ellie, the former co-host of this show. Yeah, and then
About what?
Oh, just because we're awful social justice caring people.
So it wasn't like a particular
article? No, it was in relations to the Duke Law School story, where there's a journal at Duke that students had said they were uncomfortable printing a article from a controversial professor whose own...
Not a law professor, though, right?
Not a law professor. Her own campus has had a lot of issues with her. Her academic field has written open letters decrying her work. So the students did not feel good about this, did not like their names being on that masthead. The school, the faculty decided they were going to go forward with it anyway, and the students started resigning.
That seems like a, logical and natural consequence to those set of circumstances.
Exactly. I wrote about this because I thought, it bears being highlighted, what's going on, this kind of, we look at students, whether they're de jure in charge of a journal or de facto in charge. We look to them to do all this free labor in legal academia. And
so you get a little entry on your resume.
And we justify it with, you're a real professional and we trust your judgment and yada, yada, yada. And then when rubber meets road, it is just to ignore them. And I thought that was problematic, and I wanted to highlight this issue. Nothing much more than that. I got some dumb attacks from some people about well, actually, I think the faculty board does have power here. And I'm like, maybe.
Cool. That only makes it worse.
Kind of irrelevant. And then Turles decided to go off on me in the Hill. And yeah, it's a fairly embarrassing article on his part. Then he decided to tweet about it, but not at me, just put my name places, which I didn't see because unlike some narcissists in the world, I don't have a thing set up to see my name every time it happens. So I actually didn't learn about this till well after the fact. But yeah. So
we have a new social media manager.
We do, yes.
Maybe that's something we can put on.
Maybe I should be doing that search. I don't know. No, I just remember once I said something randomly about a person within the context of a news story. I wasn't necessarily even trying to blast them. I just they were a character in a news story, and they immediately freaked out and yelled at me and whatever. And I was like, how would they even know? And I was like, oh, they just have alerts set up for every time their name is said, which is, I just don't care.
I mean, I do hear what you're saying, and I don't have one set up for my name, so I get it. But as folks who work in the media, we probably should.
Maybe, yeah. Not that. I mean, we're talking about law professors here, but yes, I get you.
Sure,
yeah.
I'm not saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Should.
You're right.
I'm
we
saying
probably should.
That we probably, or at least have somebody,
monitoring it.
Yeah, somebody should be you could ignore these. You have to pay attention to those kind of situation.
Yeah, we should figure out how we're gonna kind of bureaucratically do that.
How the administration of it all will work.
Yeah, if we wanted to streamline how
Maybe
we wanted
can streamline it.
Do these administrative tasks. Yeah. So actually, on that note, it's interesting you should mention that. Let's hear what Lexicon has to say.
Here's a message just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal services and technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, HR, billing, client intake, and more, so you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
All right, so
we eventually got the.
Yeah, no, it was great.
We worked right in.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. I mean, you.
I don't get credit for this. What?
No. I was just gonna say that the audience is getting exactly what they pay for this podcast with its professionalism. So you wrote about TV shows.
You can't.
Of sorts. Yeah.
You can't always write about deep legal concepts. Sometimes you need a bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'd recently been watching past seasons of MTV's The Challenge. Do you remember that show? Do you still watch it?
I know it's where Road Rules people and Real World people.
That was how it started. Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Is Road Rules still around?
It is absolutely not.
Oh, that's too bad. I kind of enjoyed the Winnebago aspect of it, but go on.
It was fun. And, there are a lot of kind of nostalgic-based reboot. There's Challenge All-Stars also that's available currently on Paramount Plus. That was the godfather of which is Mark Long, who was on the first season of
Road Rules.
Yeah. Well, he actually made his first MTV appearance on an episode of The Real World because in season 3, when Puck got voted out of the house, they actually interviewed 3 different people, and Mark was one of the potential people that might have moved in. They decided on Joe instead, but then the producers apparently liked Mark so much they wound up casting him on the first season of Road Rules.
Is he a lawyer or something?
No.
Oh, so there was no connection or relevance to any of that.
I just enjoy The Challenge. No, but so I had been watching.
See, that's a place where you could have just inserted see generally other stuff and not given me all the detail, like that lawyer.
I got the.
Oh yeah.
I saw the reference you were making, but sometimes you just have to listen. Sometimes it's not about you talking at me. The point was, The point was, I was watching the one of the seasons of the challenge, Rivals One, which is an epic season. Fans of the show generally are very familiar with it. The concept is great, right? You got one partner, and it was the person that you have beef with, right? Whether it be like online beef, whether it be you'd fought in previous seasons. In one instance, it's maybe you took a swing at somebody.
Ooh.
That also, that CT was partnered with Adam King, and that was part of their previous drama, despite the fact that they had actually started on their first season together because they were both on The Real World Paris. Anyway, it's a lot of detail. So anyway, the girls' winner was Paula Walnuts and Evelyn Smith. And Ev was always a great person on the show's multi-time champion. But after the Rivals, she just stopped appearing on the show. And it was, I wondered about that and used a little Google skills to find out she actually went to law school.
Nice.
Not just any law school, Harvard Law, which is,
I've heard of them.
Yeah. Have you? Yeah. That's interesting. But
they're ranked right there with Washington University of St. Louis in our rankings.
On our rankings.
Yeah,
Maybe this says a lot more about our rankings than anything else. Anyway, so she'd gone to law school, Harvard Law School, in the mid, I think 2013 or so. Then graduated, worked for human rights campaigns in Cambodia, I believe, and then has spent a lot of time working on Democratic Party causes. Up in Maine, she's been trying to get folks elected. Also worked on the Kirsten Gillibrand campaign. Worked then on the Pete Buttigieg campaign, and now is appointed to a political appointee position as a special assistant in the USAID office.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, although Mark Long, that I mentioned earlier, he's sort of, as I said, the coordinator of this All-Star season, and apparently he has spoken to Ev about potentially coming back for All-Stars, and she hasn't said no. But apparently over 100 former challengers have expressed interest in coming back for an All-Star season, which is both very exciting and I can't wait for them to develop these new seasons. It's very
cool.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the perfect moment to do this kind of nostalgia-based stuff with everyone being home, for the pandemic and using all these streaming services and whatnot, So I got myself some Paramount Plus, and which is how you can watch the All-Stars. Mm-hmm. And it's really been quite the joy.
Nice.
Quite the joy.
Well, I mean, hey, you can't be in online beefs with people forever, like I've been doing. Yeah. No, that sounds great. It does show that there's cool stuff you can do with law degrees if you stick with it, I suppose. Yeah.
And that, not everybody on reality television shows continue just in that world, although it can be lucrative for some folks. You can also, you can turn around and go to Harvard Law School.
Yeah. No, awesome.
But it was really fun. I hadn't realized that. And also, how did Above the Law miss talking about the fact that she graduated from Harvard Law School?
Well,
back in the day.
I was going to say this is an obscure show that only you really follow, but I'm actually looking, and apparently it's the #1 rated cable show. So I guess I'm wrong about that. I mean, it's the #1 rated non-news cable show, I should say. That's
pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, and for folks who have watched the show throughout the years, you can kind of tell how much more popular it's gotten because the prize money keeps going up.
Yeah, how much do they get now?
It's like $1 million.
Oh, well, it's
not nothing. It's not nothing. And I mean, it started out, it's like, you win $10,000. And it kind of has evolved to $1 million prizes. Not every season. Kind of depends on the season. But, it's a significantly larger prize pool than when the show first started, when it was like, good job, you get a video game for winning today's challenge, which it was very sponsorship based. I think I think one prize was like, you get a lifetime supplies of burgers from Burger King or Whoppers. I think that was true. I think Jarrell won it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Well, cool. I think that's basically everything we have. Raises continue unabound.
So many. But now we're kind of getting into that second tier of folks who are doing the raises, which are, they match that first year number, that 205. Which is great. And that is the number. And the reason why matching that first year salary is so important for those who may not be following the minutia is that that's what gets published by NALP. When you look to say, who's on what scale? They give 205 to first year associates. And that sounds like you're making the same amount of money as everybody, but there are differences. There's this thing called compression, where after that first, maybe second year, they start slendering down the amount of raises so that by the time you're maybe a fourth or fifth or even higher, you're making significantly less than peers at other firms. And when you were perhaps starting out your career and you're only looking, because that first year number is what's get published by a lot of these organizations. And that may be all folks pay attention to when they're interviewing at a law school, not necessarily thinking about the fact that, if they stay at a place for more than a couple of years, they'll actually be significantly behind their peer group. And potentially, they might have had offers from other places that they could have been making market salary. So I think that publishing and making sure that you're aware which firms are engaged in compression of the salary scale versus pure matches of that salary scale is super, super important. And also part of what is fueling this hot lateral market that we're seeing at the moment.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much it, unless you got something else.
No, I mostly wrote about the challenge and raises last week, so.
Fair enough. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You should be subscribed to the show, give it reviews. That really helps, shows like engagement, and means that we show up when people search for law, and then more people can hear it, and that's awesome. You should be reading Above the Law, as always, for all of the minute by minute of this kind of gossipy thing we call law. You should check out the Jabot, which is Kathryn's other podcast. You can check out the Legal Tech Week Journalists Roundtable, which is the other show that I do for
I pretty much remember the name of it.
Exciting legal tech stuff. Yeah, I do. Thanks. For exciting legal tech developments. And there are some new products this week, I know. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that later in the week. You should check out the other shows of the Legal Talk Network. You should be following us on social media. I'm at Joseph Patrice. She's at Kathryn1, numeral 1. Yeah, you'd have to add us because I don't see it when you just type my name because I don't have a search set up. Thanks to Nota, powered by M&T Bank, and Lexicon for sponsoring the show. And I believe with all of that done,
peace.
We're here. Yeah. So keep us in the loop if any legal news happens out there. Bye.